Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving deep today into, well, one of the most frustrating um, universal mental habits there is. We've pulled together some really powerful insights here from notes titled Taming the Overthinking Mind.
Mhm.
And you know the feeling, right? You're physically present, maybe uh, making dinner or trying to fall asleep, but mentally, you are stuck, replaying some interaction from like 3 months ago. It's that relentless internal review, wishing you had said something different or done something better, maybe chosen some other path. It's exhausting.
It really is. And that exhaustion, that's exactly what these sources are digging into. They define overthinking pretty simply, actually. It's the mind's endless loop of what ifs and maybes. So our mission today isn't just to name it. We want to understand, well, what drives this loop? Why does it happen? And more importantly, pull out those specific actionable steps for you so you can break that cycle and, get your attention back.
Yeah, and the immediate feeling, that visceral effect of the loop, it's captured so well in this material. It really paints this picture where um, your brain becomes your worst enemy. It stops being like a helpful partner and starts acting like this nonstop, really unproductive critic.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is the mechanism they describe, this magnification. We tend to think analysis equals problem solving, right?
Mhm.
But these writings suggest it's actually the opposite. The mind grabs onto something, analyzes every single angle until, just through sheer rumination, it makes even small, manageable problems feel huge, colossal. It's almost like a cognitive bias in action. We mistake the mental activity for actual
And
progress.
that's the paradox, isn't it? When you're stuck in that loop, your gut feeling is to think harder. You feel like, okay, the answer's right there. I just need to apply more mental muscle.
But the truth, according to these insights, is that overthinking doesn't actually solve anything. It just magnifies the pain. The real shift happens when you realize relief doesn't come from more mental effort. That's when the door kind of opens. Peace isn't found by perfectly figuring out the past. It comes from, well, letting go, just accepting what happened. And maybe harder, trusting the unknown ahead.
Okay, but acceptance is tough, isn't it? If we zoom out a bit, why are we so resistant to accepting the past? Why this defaults to the punishing loop?
Yeah, that's the core question. The author makes a really compelling case here. The root motivation for most people caught in this seems to be a fundamental desire for control. Overthinkers are basically trying to be time travelers, They replay the past hoping to find some button to rewrite it. Or they frantically scan future scenarios, trying to predict every outcome and avoid any potential pain. It's really a mechanism built on deep-seated insecurity.
So we're burning all this mental energy trying to get perfect control in a world that's inherently unpredictable. That sounds like, well, a recipe for burnout.
Absolutely. And the philosophical counterpoint in the writing is quite striking. Life isn't meant to be controlled, it's meant to be lived. And this constant drive for total control, it doesn't just mess with how we see the past, it actively sabotages our future.
How does that work? How does overthinking stop you from moving forward?
Well, it acts like a preemptive dream killer. That's a powerful way to put it. It paralyzes action because it demands guarantees that life just did. It never gives. The internal chatter, it kills dreams before they even get off the ground because it never allows you to feel ready enough.
Right. And that's where this specific internal script becomes so damaging. What are those phrases the notes point out, the ones that really freeze us?
They're insidious, really, because they often sound like careful, rational planning,
Mhm.
but underneath it's just fear wearing a disguise. The voice is constantly whispering these two really destructive lines. First, the dismissive, you're not ready.
Mm.
And second, the immediate follow-up, the one that just stops you cold, what if you fail?
Mm.
Those two phrases can keep you stuck at the starting line forever.
And the tragedy, the real aha moment that this whole shift is built on, is realizing maybe years later, realizing that the fear of failure made you miss out on everything actually worth living for. It wasn't the potential failure that cost you, it was the never trying. So we have to tackle the mechanism itself, right?
Precisely. And this is where the notes really pivot. They move from diagnosis to, well, training. They use this fantastic analogy. The mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. The goal isn't silencing the mind. I mean, that's impossible, right?
Right.
The goal is to train it, to change its role from this chaotic dictator to maybe a useful employee.
Okay, so if the mind keeps trying to pull us back to analyze past mistakes or slingshot us into the future worrying about doom, where should we be aiming to stand?
The training boils down to something simple, but definitely not easy. Come back to the present moment. That's where your actual power lies. That's the only place you can make a real choice. And living in the present, as the author puts it, isn't just passive meditation. It's an active choice. It's about consciously redirecting your cognitive resources away from endless revision and towards actual present action.
I like that framing, cognitive redirection. Okay, so let's give the listener the tools, the practical stuff. When that mental spinning starts, what's the immediate eject button? You mentioned 4 steps.
Yeah, the key is interrupting that neurological pattern right away. So when the loop kicks in, step 1 is a conscious pause. Don't engage with the thought. Don't try to solve it. Don't argue with it. Just stop the automatic reaction.
Okay, stopping the reaction. That sounds incredibly hard when the thought feels so urgent, so real.
It is hard, which is why step 2 is absolutely crucial. Take a deep breath. And this isn't just, fuzzy advice. It's physiological. It's hijacking your system in a good way. When you consciously take a deep, slow breath, you actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system, the opposite of the fight or flight mode that fuels rumination. So you're using your body to calm your brain down.
That's great. Using a physical action to override the mental spiral.
Okay.
What about actually challenging the thought itself?
That brings us to step 3, and this one is a mental move. You need a specific mantra or reminder. Not every thought deserves my attention.
Yeah.
This is a deliberate act of non-identification. You're creating cognitive distance. You're stripping that urgent thought of its assumed authority. You acknowledge the thought is there, floating by maybe, but you refuse to accept it as an absolute command or even as a true reflection of who you are.
I want to linger on that 3rd step for a second. Stripping a thought of its authority. That sounds tough in the moment. How quickly does that mantra need to work before you get pulled back in?
Well, the beauty of it is that it doesn't need to work perfectly or forever. It just needs a few seconds of real conviction. It's about creating just a tiny bit of space, a little breathing room. The goal isn't instant elimination of the thought. It's more about the realization, oh, hang on, that's just a thought, and I get to choose what I do next. If you can win that small momentary battle just for an instant, then you're ready for the final goal.
And that final goal, the 4th key step.
Step 4 is simple, profound even. Let silence win. Now, this doesn't mean your mind suddenly goes totally blank. That almost never happens. It means creating just a brief moment of pure observation, where you're just watching the mental chatter without judgment, without getting involved. It's a moment of just noticing, non-identification, that brief, quiet space. That's the antidote to the endless what-if loop. It proves to you, moment by moment, that you are the operator, not the operation. You're in charge.
Wow. This has been such a clarifying deep dive into, well, the architecture of how we ruminate. The core lesson here really feels like it's about redirecting our energy, doesn't it? Moving away from that exhausting struggle to control everything, the uncontrollable, and instead just embracing the present moment. And, yeah, training the mind, changing its job description from punishing master back to quiet, useful servant.
Exactly. And remember, you genuinely have power over your focus. That's the key takeaway. You are not defined by the anxieties or the loops your mind generates. You are defined by where you choose to place your attention, moment by moment. This knowledge hopefully gives you a kind of map. It helps you decide which thoughts are actually worthy of your very limited, very precious mental energy.
So we'll leave you with this concluding thought from the notes, something to maybe hold on to the next time that loop starts spinning. Invite you to consider the ultimate cost of this mental habit. Overthinking is the art of creating problems that don't exist.